Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. Today I want to do something I've never done before here on YouTube. I want to conduct a poll. Now before you say anything, I fully realise the pitfalls of polls such as these, but whilst they do have numerous problems, they are also very useful, and if nothing else, they're also a bit of fun in addition to being fairly interesting. So what is this poll about? Well, it's for none other than Power Play itself and the subject of it potentially going open only. Now, please keep in mind that this isn't an attempt by me to undermine Frontier's feedback process. Frontier already are using the methods they feel are best for gathering feedback, so I feel it's unlikely the information in this poll will affect their decision. Also, I'm certainly not out to prove a point. And although I probably don't need to say this, I think it is worth stating that this is an entirely unofficial poll. The reason for the poll then is basically very simple. It's a great way to gauge thoughts on the subject, and I think people will be very interested in seeing the results. So the poll itself is available in the community section of my channel, and you can find a link to that in the video description below. But before you head on over there and vote, you may want to listen to the rest of the video. Let's get to the point then. What's the story behind all of this? Well, Beyond is the latest season for Elite Dangerous, and it is all about improving the core features of the game. Frontier have been looking for feedback from the community as a part of this process, and one of the ways they are doing this is through releasing information on the official forums and then asking for feedback on it. In May, they asked for feedback on squadrons. Later this month, they will be revealing proposals on mining and exploration. Recently, however, there was an additional topic, this one focused on improving power play. There were a number of suggested changes here, and I covered these in a video released at the time. However, one of these changes, which continues to get a huge amount of feedback, is the idea of making Power Play an open mode only activity. In fact, the feedback on this has been so numerous that Frontier have put forth a second proposal, this time suggesting a halfway measure where Power Play wouldn't be open only, but instead would be limited in its effectiveness in all other modes other than open. So what does all of this mean, and what are people saying about it? So let's make sure all the information is on the table so people know precisely why they're voting. First, let's talk about modes. Elite Dangerous has 3 modes of play which determine how you can interact with other players. These modes are Open, Private and Solo. Open is, as the name suggests, entirely open. Everyone who plays the game in open mode will be able to see each other, and they can wing up together, fly together, as well as shoot and destroy each other. Private mode has all the same rules as open, except the player gets to determine who they can see. They do this by creating a private group and then inviting other players into that group. When playing in private mode, you will only be able to see other players that are in the same group as you. Finally, solo mode is the personal mode for playing. In this mode, you can play alone and you cannot see other players and they cannot see you. Regardless of the mode you play in, however, all actions undertaken by a player will affect the galaxy as a whole. The background simulation is the system that controls a vast array of aspects in the galaxy. Players can have an influence on the galaxy by conducting missions, trading, combat, and many other things besides. Whether you play in open, private, or solo, your influence on the game will be the same. Players have been assured by Frontier that this will not be changing and that the background simulation will always have equal effects in all game modes. Power Play, however, is another separate layer of the game. Whilst it's very different to the background simulation, it does share some similarities. Players can affect which powers control specific areas of the galaxy by undertaking a variety of Power Play tasks. Players who want to get involved with this activity can sign up with one of the powers that's in the game, and they will then essentially become enemies of all the other powers. As Frontier see things, this opens up the avenue for consensual PvP. Over the course of time, powers will expand and contract, each granting their members and regions of space special attributes or advantages. As with other areas of the game, Power Play is currently equally affected by all game modes. That means that players conducting Power Play actions in solo mode will have an equal effect on the game as players conducting the very same actions in open mode. Now, Frontier's newest proposal on this situation says that this does not make any sense from a gameplay point of view, as Power Play was envisioned as a system to generate consensual PvP. The bottom line then is that both private mode and solo mode bypass this conflict aspect of Power Play. Naturally, players see this potential change as a massive shift in the nature of the game, a game which Frontier have often assured players that all game modes are equally valid. though it's also worth pointing out that they have never actually stated that all modes are equal. After all, equal and equally valid are both very different things. So this is where the feedback comes in. Frontier have asked players if this change would encourage people to participate in Power Play. It seems very clear then that Frontier want more people playing Power Play, but not only that, it seems that Frontier want more PvP within Elite. There are understandably a lot of different thoughts and opinions on this matter. Some people feel the proposal betrays what Elite has always been about. This argument states that Elite has always allowed players to participate in the game in whichever way they desire, regardless of game mode. Other people feel that the proposed changes would force them into a game mode that they are either not interested in or do not want to play in for a whole variety of different reasons. And then there are the players who feel that this would be a very good change indeed, and would not only make the game more dynamic, but would also make it more fair. The reasoning behind this thinking is that more activity within Power Play would actually generate more interesting and more dynamic gameplay. And further, that players would no longer be able to undermine Power Play activities from the safety of an isolated game mode. Another line of thinking is that Open Only would force players away from Power Play as they don't actually enjoy the game mode, and that could have a negative impact on Power Play overall. And of course there is the section of players on consoles who would no longer be able to engage with Power Play under such a change. The reason for this is because both Sony and Microsoft demand a monthly subscription fee for online games. Solo mode is exempt from this fee, however open mode is not. There are of course a lot of players who already pay this subscription fee to their respective console platforms, however this is far from everyone. So this would essentially mean that if Power Play went open only, that a few players at least would find it locked behind a paywall, but a paywall which Frontier have no control over. That is a console issue. There are no doubt many other reasons and arguments that people have on this, but the important factor here, however, is that Frontier really don't want to see discussions on why any one of us feel the change might push other players in a certain direction. Instead, what Frontier are actually looking for is to know our personal thoughts on how such a change would affect our own personal and individual gameplay. In short, they're not looking on speculation about what we think other players feel, they just want to see what we personally feel. So again, this poll isn't aimed at undermining Frontier's intents on this. There is a feedback thread where Frontier are gathering everyone's thoughts and feelings. This, without doubt, is the primary area which Frontier are gathering information from, and this poll won't have any effect on that. And as a final note, none of this is set in stone. At the moment, Frontier are merely investigating various ideas and looking for the feedback. It's also worth pointing out that Frontier have stated they are willing to move Power Play modules over to other means of access. For example, that they could be unlocked through tech brokers. Access to Power Play modules then shouldn't affect your decision on this. So then, as it stands right now, and perhaps to unfairly limit this complex subject into bullet points, these are the possibilities for the poll. I'm not going to put in an I don't care option or I don't play, as I feel that if you don't care or don't play, then you simply wouldn't want to vote anyway. So you can find a link to the poll in the video section below. Like I said early on, this will take you to the community section of my channel, and there you will find all the information. Do feel free to vote, and do feel free to share the poll. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.